Everyone is out here looking for the next best business to start. Well, in today's video, I'm going to show you exactly how to develop a software company without knowing how to code and exactly why this business model provides so many unique advantages. Let's jump into this. One of the best businesses by far to start that gives you the most advantages from profitability, marketing, as well as competitors is software as a service, or better known as SaaS. When you look up how to make money online, which I'm sure most of you watching this video have done, you see an insane amount of content on e-commerce, dropshipping, day trading, even starting an agency, but it absolutely blows my mind how little content there is on starting SaaS businesses and building a software company. I'm not sure exactly why this is the case, but after talking to a lot of new entrepreneurs, there's a stigma out there that you can't really develop a software company unless you have a ton of funding. It's a ton of work. You need to know how to code, but to be honest, that's just not true. Now, I do recommend if you are starting a software company to learn at least the basics of programming and really understand just how developers think. There are a ton of free resources out there on YouTube, as well as really cheap courses on Udemy that you can take, but by no means do you need to be an expert. It's just important that you understand the fundamentals. That way you know what you're hiring for. But by developing SaaS and digital product solutions, there are so many advantages, from automation to low overhead expenses to high profit margin to a subscription model and even a way to outmaneuver your competitors. And to take this even a step further, the notion out there that you have to create some super complicated software to see any success in that space is just not the case. The key is to find a niche and solve a specific problem. The greater problem you solve, the more money you make. Now, a lot of the basic context that I'm going to be covering in this video was actually from a book that I read 4 or 5 years ago called The Non-Technical Founder by Josh McDonald. And this book actually helped me start my first ever 6-figure software company when I had very little experience. So if you're thinking, I can never build a software company, I don't know how this can benefit me, that is where you're wrong. These systems, strategies, and tactics can actually be applied to almost any industry or any business that you are trying to start. And in the digital age that we live today, it's important to understand how to manage, hire, and work with developers and learn technical skills. Before we jump into this process, I want to focus on 2 major advantages that come when building a software company. Number 1, less work and low overhead. Because you are building an automated solution and obviously a software that will run on its own, there's not a lot of manpower needed when it comes to running daily operations compared to most other business models. But that's really it. And advantage number 2 is the power of recurring subscriptions. Most software companies run using monthly subscriptions or a recurring subscription of some kind, whether it be monthly, quarterly, annually. But what this means is you only need to sell this product once, and the same person will continue to purchase it over and over and over again. But your focus shifts to, instead of just how do I find new customers, it's how do I retain the customers that I have to continue to pay their subscription. So once you have the top of your funnel built and you have a good set of leads coming in, you don't have to spend as much time just focus on the top of your funnel like you would if you were running an e-commerce brand. Now, if we break down the actual numbers, let's just say, for example, you're trying to make $20,000 a month. If you're running a dropshipping store, for example, let's just say you're charging $20 for your product and your cost of goods are $5 and it costs you roughly about $10 to acquire a new customer. That's your cost per acquisition, or CPA. Then every single time you sell a product, you're profiting right around $5. Meaning if you want to make $20,000 a month, you would have to sell that product to 4,000 different people every month. Versus a SaaS company where you have 0 cost of goods, everything is automated, you already built a solution, you only have to sell it once and then people will continue to pay for it. Let's just say, for example, your subscription is $20 a month. Well, that customer is going to be paying every single month. So at $20 and at 0 cost of goods, and once someone is already paying for your subscription, they're already there, it's on a recurring buy. That means at $20 a month, you would only need 1,000 people using your software company to make $20,000 a month. And the best part is you don't have to resell them. All you have to do is retain them. Now, one of the best ways that I see of spotting new opportunities and coming up with ideas is sitting there and listening to people complain. Every single time I hear someone complain about something, it sparks in my mind that there has to be a solution out there that can solve this problem. But again, remember, the bigger problem that you solve, the more money that you will make. Now, you can come up with ideas using personal experience and issues that you've seen and problems that you want to solve for yourself, or maybe whatever industry you're working in at this current moment. And if you're facing that same problem, there is a high probability that there are a lot of other people facing the same problem that you are. So if you can identify that opportunity, it's an easy way to come up with an idea on a software solution that you can create. You can also start analyzing software products and companies that you're using right now and figure out ways that they're going wrong. Maybe they're pricing way too high. Maybe they don't have some of these systems and features that you find useful, and you can take what they've built, make minor adjustments, and attack the market at a completely unique angle. The next thing you can do as well is read industry forums. By doing this, you can begin to understand particular roadblocks that these businesses in this specific industry are facing and how to come up with unique solutions to solve those problems. Industry forums also provide another valuable tool when it comes to beta testing and finding people within that industry who are willing to test the application and the solution that you created once your development is done, but we'll jump into that later. So you should test your idea in a number of different ways, but if you're targeting, let's just say, for example, a specific industry, find people within that industry to talk to. Ask them about that specific problem that they're facing. Ask them, is this a type of solution that you would be interested in? Is this something that your company would use or you would use as an individual? So it's really important that you do take a little bit of time once that idea and that concept is created to actually validating it. The next thing you should do is build your core team of 1 to 2 people. Now, you may be sitting there thinking, I could do this on my own, but I highly advise, especially if this is your first time, working with someone else. By building a team, it can also help you validate your idea by knowing that other people do believe in the solution that you're trying to create, and you can make way more progress in a shorter period of time. A recent study has also proved that a team of founders outperforms a solo founder by up to 163%. So long story short, it will definitely benefit you to build a team. Find at least, 1 or 2 other people who will help you build this company and this startup from scratch. The next thing you want to do is identify your customer. Regardless of the business model, this is always the first step, is identifying who you're going to be targeting and put yourself in your customer or your audience's shoes. And then identify your consumer category. Are you selling to a business? Are you selling to a consumer? If you're selling to a business, that is considered B2B. And if you're selling to a consumer, that is considered B2C. Now, once you know what customer you're targeting and what category you fall into, that is everything you need to know to really start identifying your audience, study them, and kind of take the next step in building your software company. Now that you have the idea for your software company and you know who your customer is, the next step is ideating and creating what is called your minimal viable product, or MVP. Identifying your MVP or minimal viable product is extremely important. Obviously, your end goal is to solve a problem in a specific industry and offer a solution that people are going to use. But you can only predict so much on paper and just in your head, so you need to plan out exactly what you are trying to build. Your MVP is just the basic version of your idea with all the extra bells and whistles removed. Now, once you have your MVP done, which will be after development, that's when you go into beta testing, as well as just testing the concept and really building off of it to make it even more viable. The misconception that almost everyone has when they build their first software company is, I need to add everything I possibly can, because the more functions and more functionality that I have, the better it's going to be and the more people are going to want it. But that's simply just not the case and can actually do a lot more harm than good. So something to take into consideration when building software is less is more. So really focus on building a very basic MVP that is solving that one specific problem that you're trying to tackle. Now, obviously, this is probably the most asked question in any business, and especially software, is how much is this going to cost? Now, the cost for software companies can vary tremendously, and it really is dependent upon the complexities of what you're trying to build, as well as who you're hiring and where they're located, and obviously the hourly rate of those people, because depending on who you're hiring around the world, everyone charges a different rate. I've seen SaaS projects range in startup costs from $10,000 to well over $100,000, but ultimately it's how strategic you are, understanding what budget you're on, who you can hire, how many people you can bring on, and how quickly you can get this done with the budget that you're working with. I've also found that some of my best developers, and I would say maybe 40 or 50% of my team, is actually located in the Philippines. I try my best to stay away from agencies as well as, people over in India. I've never really seen great results working with people on that side of the world. So that's just my 2 cents, and they are a lot cheaper hiring developers in the United States. Now, if you're strapped for cash and you need to raise funding, don't let that stop you. If you're passionate about the idea that you're creating and you think it is a really good idea that has a lot of use cases, you could take your business plan and the mock-ups and the wireframe, which we'll jump into later, and take it to businesses within the industry that you're trying to solve a solution for, and see if they would be interested in funding your project and taking a piece of the pie. Now, asking $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 from a business may seem like a hefty ask on your end. But let me tell you, for a successful business, if you're going to solve a solution that could save them hundreds of hours a year, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, and just save them a headache and make their solutions and their processes on the back end way easier, $20, $30, $40, $50,000 is nothing to a business, as long as they're gaining the benefit and a problem that they had before is now solved. You can also even leverage your network and the people that you know, and find people like friends and family and people that believe in you and what you're trying to create. That is also an option as well. Too many people just give up when they realize that they don't have the funds for something that they want to build or a business that they want to start, but that should not stop you. Everything you do in business is hard, and you're going to run into so many roadblocks in the future. And your first roadblock might just be, how do I raise a little bit of capital to build out my idea? But I promise you, if you look hard enough, there is money everywhere. Now, once you have your idea and all the steps that we've just talked about done, the next step is building out a wireframe of your MVP before going out and hiring developers to build it. First, you need to build out a list of all the functions and all the different pages that you're going to need to bring your MVP to life, such as dashboard pages, login, sign up pages, settings, etc. You're going to want to list all of these things out before you start wireframing and building the sketch and design of all these pages. If you want to learn how to build a wireframe, go ahead and check out the last video that I posted, but a couple software platforms that I recommend. One is Figma and the other one is Mockflow. Now, when building your wireframe, you have a couple different options. You could build something out that's really, really detailed, has all your branding, colors, logo, assets, exactly what you want, or you can build a rough sketch with just basic layouts, basic functions that you need, and then focus on doing that later. Obviously, depending on whether or not you want to hire someone to build out your wireframe or you want to do it yourself. If it's your first time, I just recommend building out a rough sketch. But the reason you want to develop a wireframe before going into development is so you and your team, as well as the developers, have a clear visual understanding of what you are trying to build. And it's not just you guys talking back and forth on a Zoom, but now that you have your MVP wireframe done, it's time to start hiring programmers to start developing your MVP. Now, when it comes to hiring developers, you can hire them on an hourly basis or a fixed rate. Neither is objectively better or worse. An easy way to find developers at a recently cheap price is through Upwork, which I also mentioned in the last video. Upwork is all about scaling at volume, so you can interview a ton of developers in a short period of time and really start dialing down on who you want to hire within a matter of days. But it's really important when you are hiring and working with developers that you set milestones. And these milestones are really just going to be different stages that you're going to have to complete to finish your application or MVP. Now, however you decide to customize those milestones based and fill them with tasks is completely up to you. And a lot of that can be decided from the wireframe as well as the list of all the different functions and pages that you need to build. Milestones also make it easy to pay per stage of completion. That way you don't have to front all the money up front or rely on them to report their hours correctly. The worst thing is overpaying for development, so it's important that you're clear on the milestones and all the different benchmarks that you're using to track the task, and make it really clear and communicate with the developer on when they're getting paid for the completion of each stage. I even recommend, depending on the complexity of the MVP that you're trying to develop, is hire a development advisor or bring on a technical co-founder. You can find development advisors or a technical co-founder by hiring on Upwork or leveraging your personal network. But during development, it is extremely important that you are communicating very well between your developers, and you're testing everything as they begin building it. You are going to need to beta test after your MVP is done. Beta testing is literally you just getting a small group of people that is your ideal audience to go through basically a checklist that you'll provide to them to run through your entire MVP. And that way you can go ahead and fix a lot of those problems before you take your MVP to market. I wanted to make this video to encourage people that it is possible to develop software companies without writing a single line of code, without having an insane technical development background. Anybody can do this. It's just a matter of whether or not you're willing to take the risk and if you see the advantages in this side of the space and with this business model. Now, I know I didn't cover every little aspect of this process, but I did cover a lot of the main points on how to get started. But besides that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and smash that like and subscribe button, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.